Welcome back to the Daughter Arise channel. This channel is all about bringing news and content surrounding childhood sexual abuse and giving a voice to survivors' stories. So today I just wanted to hop in here quickly just to talk about Ellen Degeneres, who has recently in the last few days opened up about being sexually abused by her stepfather. And in an article in the Mail, she describes her experience and how it affected her and her life. So the 61-year-old made the claim on Netflix, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction with David Letterman, where she said that her stepfather had groped her breast several times when she was a young teenager, but claiming to be looking for lumps. Ellen's mother, Betty, who is a breast cancer survivor, did not initially believe her when she told her and stayed with him for 18 years. Ellen did not name her stepfather during the interview. In 1973, when Ellen was the age she was when she says the attack happened, her father married Texas salesman Roy Gressendorf. He died in 1997. On the show, Ellen recalled how her stepfather pretended to be checking for lumps when the alleged abuse began. He told me when she was out of town that he felt a lump in her breast and needed to feel my breast because he didn't want to upset her, but he needed to feel mine. Again, because I didn't know about bodies, I didn't know that all breasts are different. Anyway, he convinced me that he needed to feel my breasts, and then he tries to do it again another time and then another time. He then tries to break my door down, and I kicked the window out and ran because I knew it was going to go more to something, and I didn't want to tell my mother because I thought I was protecting her and knew that I would ruin her happiness, she says. She added that while her mother, Betty, is apologetic about it now, she did not believe her initially when she confided in her a few years after the incident. Betty stayed with the man for 18 years and has said in past interviews that she eventually left him after his story changed several times and she realised he had abused her daughter. Ellen explained, I am angry at myself because, I didn't know I was too weak to stand up. I was 15 or 16 years old. It was a horrible, horrible story, and the only reason I'm actually going into details because I want other girls to not ever let someone do that. I should never have protected her. I should have protected myself. And I didn't tell her for a few years, and then I told her. And then she didn't believe me, and then she stayed with him for 18 more years. And finally left him because his story changed so many times. On her mother, she said, I've always taken care of her my whole life, so I just kept taking care of her. I didn't really let it get to me until recently. I kind of went, I wish I would have been better taken care of. I wish she would have believed me. And she's apologetic now, but Ellen said she decided to speak out because we as women just don't feel like we're worthy or we're scared to have a voice and we're scared to say no. The only reason I think it's important to talk about it because there's so many young girls who are going through it and it doesn't matter how old you are. When I see people speaking out, especially now, it angers me when victims aren't believed because we don't just make stuff up. It's time for us to have a voice. It's time for us to have power. First of all, I just want to say hats off to Ellen because, she has a huge platform. I personally like Ellen. I've always liked Ellen since the Ellen show. I've always found her personality to be quite funny and down to earth. But the fact that she was able to use her platform as a talk show host, and she's the top one in Hollywood, to address this and talk about this is a powerful, powerful thing. We need more voices like Ellen able to come forward and to talk about this. Recently, we had Common that came forward, the rapper Common, to talk about as a male how sexual abuse and molestation affected him. And I haven't done a video on that yet because I'm waiting to read his book so that I can give a proper video on it. I didn't just want to just do a video on a small statement that he said. But anyway, there are some things from Ellen's story that we can pick up and that we can learn from. And the first thing is that Ellen did say that she was not taught about bodily boundaries. I say this time and time again, one of the best ways that we can empower children is to teach them about bodily boundaries, teaching them about good and bad touch, teaching them about, secrets, good secrets and bad secrets, and people are a divided opinion about secrets. Some people choose to have secrets, I personally don't, but children do have secrets. It's important to teach them what is a good secret and a bad secret, teaching them about their correct names for their body parts, teaching them that nobody has a right to touch them anywhere that they're not comfortable, and what is an appropriate way to be touched. It is so important to teach children this, because the stepfather, and this goes on to my second point, is that perpetrators are opportunists. They are opportunists. They look for a foot in the door, they look for a weakness, and her stepfather found it in the fact that here is Ellen as a young girl, ready, vulnerable and upset, worried about her mum who's gone through breast cancer, who's recovering, knowing that she's feeling scared about that, and knowing that she doesn't have the knowledge to understand that. Him performing a examination on her as a 15-year-old girl is totally inappropriate. He used the fact that Ellen's mum was recovering from cancer and away from the home as an opportunity for him to molest Ellen. And this is why perpetrators always are considered predators. They like to get into places and do things where they can get the opportunity to sexually abuse a child. The opportunities, whether that could be in a dysfunctional family, a single parent family, a family where there is a lot going on. They are unfortunately very good at finding predatory opportunities. And that, coupled together with the fact that Ellen didn't know anything about bodily boundaries, anything about, this man was not supposed to be touching her in this way, touching her breast, but she did sense that something was wrong and was able to escape from that situation. Another thing that was striking about Ellen's story was the fact where she said that she didn't want to ruin her mum's happiness. And it's funny how the victim immediately subconsciously picks up the guilt complex. This is something that I talk about in my book Choose Life, that this is something that keeps many survivors from talking out. This is automatically what happens with a lot of us, where we pick up the guilt complex and think we don't want to ruin our family's happiness, we don't want to be the one to cause upset, we're going to be in trouble, while the perpetrator remains free to roam and do whatever he wants in the family. He's not thinking, or whoever it is, he, she is not thinking about, they're ruining the family's happiness. They are literally looking for an opportunity to be a predator. It was kind of surreal to hear her talk like this, because it just shows you whether a survivor is rich or poor, regardless of class, regardless of religion, that these feelings that we feel or have felt are very real. The guilt complex, feeling responsible for a crime or violation that has happened against us. In terms of her mother, the fact that she did try and speak out and wasn't believed, and how that must have affected her. There are many survivors of sexual abuse, of child sexual molestation, who try to speak out and are immediately shut down. And it's always really weird to hear these stories, in a sense, because the survivor is automatically shut down, but the perpetrator is allowed to have excuse after excuse after excuse. And as she said, it is only because he kept changing his story several times that the mother finally believed her own daughter that that had happened to her. Whilst as a victim of sexual abuse, Ellen was immediately shut down the moment she tried to say something to her mother. There's many things that we can take away from this story, but I just want to really thank Ellen for her bravery and her courage in speaking up, because somebody with that high level profile of celebrity who's using her platform to speak up about it, and the fact that she talks about, it makes her angry that, survivors are never believed. This is something I again talk about in my book Choose Life. As survivors, we have to earn the right to be believed, and it is totally not fair, and it's so unjust. It really does make me angry. It is the only crime where your word against mine testimony is played out in court. We have to prove what we went through, while the perpetrators of sexual abuse are free to do what they want, are automatically believed. They're never really questioned. They're able to wheedle their way out of it. Who would put themselves through something like that, of making up something so traumatic to have the kind of response that we know in society that a lot of survivors and victims get? But just remember that, it's important that you teach your children about bodily boundary, teach them how to keep themselves safe, teach them about good touch, bad touch. There's loads of organisations out there that can support and help you in to being able to do this as a parent, as a caregiver. It's important to remember that if you are a survivor or victim of sexual abuse, that it is not your fault. If you want to check out my other videos, please do. Please like and subscribe, and I shall see you on the next video.